you been in a small group, a workshop, or whether it's face-to-face or online, and really people bring questions at you, and as the leader you feel so obliged that you've got to answer every question and deal with things? It really can be quite tricky on how to manage that. I've been in that situation, not knowing what to do or even being able to answer their question, honestly. So I found a few strategies that have really helped me when I'm in a workshop or in a small group on how to do that. Now, first of all, the first scenario could be sometimes we all ask dumb questions or receive dumb questions. And what do I mean by that? Well, questions that don't fit the agenda, the small group, or repeat information, or something that's actually not really helpful for the whole group. And if you're a parent or a teacher, you know exactly what I mean. Have you ever been leading a small group, whether it be face-to-face or online, or a workshop, and you've got a group or an audience and then they're starting to ask questions or having a conversation, and you get stuck with questions that are really difficult to help, or you just don't know how to answer them? I have, and it's really tricky on how to manage those situations. Here's some tips that I found that really helped for me. One is, as the leader or facilitator, you can decide whether the question is one that should actually be answered, because not every question does. For example, if you're a parent or a teacher, you know sometimes we get dumb questions. Hey, I've even asked dumb questions. And what do I mean by that? Well, a question that doesn't fit the agenda, or is repeat information that's been presented over and over again. For example, people asking you an administrative question or where to get information that you've already released, then that's really a dumb question. And sometimes people do that because they're trying to give you their problem. But you don't have to take the problem, and you can hand it back to them quite politely. So how you do that is put your brain in neutral and go, oh, actually, I don't have to answer this. I don't have to engage in this. Acknowledge your question, say thanks for your question, but actually, I don't know. I'm not an expert at that, but I'll leave that with you. So you're acknowledging them politely, but you're giving them their problem back. And this also is telling them that they're quite powerful and that they can solve their problem another way. That's one scenario. Secondly, sometimes people ask you questions that are not really for the benefit of the whole group or for you as the leader. And that happens a lot as well. And so sometimes I found that I had to get prepared about how am I going to answer that. And I've discovered that if I am prepared for that and can recognise that the question is not really for the benefit of the majority of the group, then I need to take the question offline and have it as a one-to-one or something that gets dealt with later on. And so I prepare myself for that by having a couple of sentences up my sleeve that go, hey, thanks for your question, I really love that, or thanks for your comments, I appreciate that, but maybe we could finish that conversation offline when we've finished it. Or you might say, hey, thanks for your question. Look, for the benefit of the group, we need to keep moving on with our content. Let's talk about that later or at the end of the session. Sometimes I've even used a phrase like, hey, I really love what you're saying and that's really interesting. Could you send me that in an email or pop it on the Facebook chat or something like that? So you're really taking the question, acknowledging them, but putting it offline for the benefit of the whole group. Because if you don't, you'll find that the audience and the group actually starts to disengage and find it boring and uninteresting. And then you have to re-engage people because you've gone down a rabbit trail or answered a question that is really only for the benefit of one person and not for the majority of people. So I hope that helps, that understanding that you are powerful and you can choose whether to answer the question or not. And if you don't, then there are some tips and ways that you can acknowledge the person but safely take the question offline and keep the group still involved and keep moving towards your objective of the meeting. I hope that helps.